I thought practice today, it was really a day to come and correct and review from the scrimmage. We did some good things in the scrimmage, got after it, got some live work, which is what we needed. Today was about correcting that, getting out there, do a little conditioning, give these guys an early day to go home, relax, rest. We have a team activity tomorrow and a few meetings, and then Monday is our day off, and then really Tuesday is when we start getting into game planning and dialing into the season. All right, so fall camp really breaks on Sunday, and we'll figure out a few more things with our team at that point. By Monday, we'll probably be flipping some depth charts a little bit, and then Tuesday we're into some scout team work, some service work, and then certainly into Mercer and what we have to be doing for that game. So with that, questions?
Bryan, after having a chance to kind of sit back and watch the video, what were your impressions of kind of the quarterbacks from the situation and stuff together?
Yeah, it was good. I thought we started slow. I don't know, it wasn't the quarterbacks. I just think we started slow from the offensive standpoint. And that's also a credit to our defense as well. It's not just, one side wasn't executing. I thought the defense did a good job in those red zone situations. That's where we started yesterday. But overall, what we're looking for from the quarterbacks is operation. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, I know everybody wants to see these guys go out there and just make plays, but you have to get the call from the sideline. You got to communicate it. You got to operate. And that's the most important thing right now is what we're looking for. And they did that. So they did a good job with that. Then they made plays. So probably that third series, fourth series, it started to pick up. Tempo picked up. Execution picked up. And I thought TJ did some really good things in the scrimmage as far as just managing the clock and the situations and making sure that we didn't have to call timeouts. So he has a really good awareness on the field. I thought Robbie made some plays. Just standing in the pocket and throwing. He made some plays with his feet and getting out and scrambling and making a few throws. Zach did a nice job as well. He moved the chains and scored touchdowns. So all three guys, Holden didn't get a ton of reps in the scrimmage, but those three guys mainly, they all did some positive things that we needed to see from them. But overall, I thought it was solid from an offensive standpoint. I thought the defense came out and played well. The first group in particular. Those guys did a nice job. And then special teams, we did some of that. It's not live, but it was good to see some of the special teams work and just our specialists get out there. And I thought that was an okay day for our specialists. We're usually better than that because I think we have really good specialists on this team. So we need to be better in that area. That was the challenge today, that we improved there. But we worked on red zone. We worked on 2-minute. We worked a backed-up situation, and we did a little bit of goal line in that scrimmage, and we did some individual, and we did our whole pregame routine. That was what was really important for us to make sure that we come out there and we look like we know what we're doing in the pregame.
If you're going to start game prep on Tuesday, do you anticipate knowing who your starting quarterback is by then?
Yeah, I don't know. Too early to tell right now. I mean, I'll get with the coaches. We're going to take today, and the coaches are going to handle what they need to and do some of the things personally so they can be ready to go on Sunday. And then what we'll do after our team activity on Sunday is we'll sit down as a staff and we'll start going through, all right, where are we at? All right, so potentially by Tuesday we could be there, and I want to see what everybody thinks. One thing about a quarterback situation, it's not just the QBs. I mean, we're looking at other positions as well. Go up there and just look at, all right, what gives us the best opportunity to go out there and operate what we want to do. Defensively, offensively, who's going to travel, look at the travel squads for special teams, who's playing on special teams, and that's a big part right now that we've been harping on with guys is like, look, you want to get on the bus, you got to find a way on teams if you're not the guy on O&D. And so we'll probably look at that Sunday. I'm sure on Monday go back and let everybody look at the board again and kind of let it all sink in and see if this is where we're going. I'm not saying by Tuesday we have the final decision. That final decision will come towards the end of next week, for sure going into that last week, game week. But I want to see where everybody's at with just their thought process on who we think the guys are.
Coach, how important is that conditioning work you do at the end of practice so you guys have your legs come some of the fourth quarter of these big SEC games?
Yeah, we don't condition a ton in our normal practices because they're about 2 hours long. The conditioning should happen in practice. And if we're not running in practice, then we'll condition after practice. Today was a lighter day, so we were going to get that in. We wanted to get some lactic acid out a little bit, just stride them out. But that's something that's, I think, undervalued in a lot of places, right? That conditioning piece, fourth quarter, just that mindset. We do all this stuff in the spring. We have our fourth quarter training sessions and all that. So we do the mat drills. We get out there, we grind. And then you go through all the summer of doing a lot of those same things, which is really for that fourth quarter. And in this league, you're going to be in a lot of games in the fourth quarter where you have to, whatever you want to call it, you got to execute, gut it out, whatever it takes, right? And you got to be able to be in shape, and you got to think. I think that's the biggest thing. You got to be conditioned. Everybody talks about mental toughness, and I think it all starts physically first. You physically have to be able to go out there and hit somebody. You got to physically be able to run, and you got to be physically conditioned to mentally have yourself in where you need to be. So the physical component is something that we emphasize quite a bit. And we do this. Not everybody sees that like we did. We do this in our workouts as well. So we condition in our workouts.
Bryan, is there anything new on Nick Baum's about his availability or what he's going to be doing going forward?
No, still just kind of waiting that one out a little bit, see where he's at. At some point, we'll figure out what his situation is, but just kind of let him settle in a little bit, heal up, and then figure out what the final decision is going to be.
Coach, with 2 weeks until you play a regular game, what are some areas you'd like to see the team improve in, and what areas have you guys improved in since the start of practice? Yeah,
number one is awareness. That'd be number one, just overall as a team. Running on the field and getting the signal. Right? It's we can have all these systems in place, and I know our coaches do, I know our coordinators do. I sit in there and I listen to them, and I watch how they install the things that we need to put in. And the system is exactly what it should be, but you're dealing with people. So simple things like if you run on the field, you should look to the sideline to get the call. I mean, it's an awareness thing. It's 4th and 2. You play that different than 2nd and 5. So, as a player, you have to look over there and see it's 4th and 2. You're going to get different play calls. You should expect certain calls in those situations. Even just into meetings, right? Walking into a meeting, right? I think you all know you walk into a meeting and you can kind of feel it like, all right, we're going to be locked in today. You can walk into a meeting and it's a little bit more loose at times, and just some of that awareness that I think is really important for us. I think just as people to be successful, we need to work on our operation, from sideline. I was at, just kind of talking about, some high school games from last night. I was talking to our team about that today. I watched high school teams from the sideline go out there and not have 10 or 11 on the field. They got 10 or they got too many. They got to burn timeouts. And that's what happens in games. That's the one thing that we don't pay enough attention to. And just like that, you're burning through 3 timeouts in a quarter. You can burn through 3 timeouts in a quarter. Then you don't have it at the end of half. Now you make a stupid decision and you don't have a timeout to cover yourself. And we just had too many of those at practice, 12 guys, 10 guys. Just simple things that everyone's like, no big deal, just reload. And we're not at that point anymore. We're not good enough to go out there and not have 11 guys on the field, everybody locked in, knowing the play and the signal, and then just go out there and operate and expect to win that play. That's really been the focus, is now thinking and playing. I know we can play. I've seen guys do that. We got some guys that can play. I know we can think. Now can we think and play? And that's what the game is. It's a game. It's a game of situations. 3 hours and 24 minutes. That's the average length of a college football game. All right, so, you got to be ready for that. It's really 5 hours and 20, because you got 2 hours early when you get there. So you got to be able to focus, and you got to know what the heck's going on around you while everything's crazy. And in practice, I don't know how many fans we had there and people today. What's going to be a lot different on September 3rd. And it doesn't get any easier when the fans and everybody's out there and that environment's crazy. So practice is more controlled. If you have a hard time in practice, you're not just going to rise to the occasion come game day. I think that's the worst thing, and it always, it comes from a lot of just, people in the media and talking about, players and all. He just rose to the occasion. No, not really. You don't do that. You don't do that. Usually that happens in practice, and you train that way because you'll fall right back onto your training because it's already hard enough. So trying to get guys to understand a little bit of, well, I'll just get there on game day and be ready to go. It's not going to happen. And you probably won't be out there anyway because we hadn't seen it in practice. Those are the things now for this team is what we have to focus on.
Bryan, what went into the move from Jeremiah right back to offense, and how's he looked the last few days playing with him?
Yeah, that was all him. That was him. Jeremiah was a defensive lineman when we came here. We wanted to move him to O-line. He wanted to move back to D-line. Then he wanted to move back to O-line. So, and Jeremiah is one of my favorite guys. You know, I do. I love him. I think he's a phenomenal person. I know he can help us, and I think he just sees it. He sees that, you know what? Hey, maybe I can go back to O-line and make a bigger impact there. And I do think that's the position that fits him. But I also, you know, I want guys to want to be on the field, and so if they want to play, I don't want to force a guy into a position they don't want to play. I just want guys to love what they're doing and play the position that, you know, they feel like they can. And he did a good job on the D-line, but then he was looking at it going, hey, I think I might be able to come back here and help us. So to me, that's a really mature decision on his part to go, all right, well, I tried that, and I think I can help our team better, and I think I can contribute here. So I trust him and believe in him. If that's what he wants to do, then we'll move him back there. And he's going to help us on the O-line. There's no doubt about it. He'll play. He'll help us. We'll see where he's at here in a couple weeks. He's got a few more weeks to kind of get in there and get himself a little bit more in the groove on the offense, but he's going to help us, and he'll play.
I wanted to ask about Malcolm Johnson also. You mentioned him early on that he was having a good camp. Does that continue during last week or so?
Yeah, Malcolm's steady. He's been really steady. I haven't seen nothing negative from Malcolm. He's been steady. You know, we've had some of those younger guys that we've been trying to get in there too to see where Camden's at, Amari's at, Jay Fair, moving a few guys around. Sheds, you know, he wasn't out there today. He's trying to rest him just a little bit. But Malcolm's been really, really consistent, really steady, really consistent. Made some plays for us in practice, so you know everything for him has been good, and I think that's a good thing too. Just every day he's just showing up and doing what he's supposed to do, and I think that's been something that's really helped that room, in my opinion.
Bryan, could you talk about Donovan Kaufman and what he's kind of meant with the somewhat rebuilt secondary?
Yeah, well, Donovan's really, really intelligent football player. He's able to get guys lined up. I mean, he understands situations. He understands what we're trying to accomplish by the call. So I think that helps. He's also a really good special teams player. So we're trying to figure out where to put him without overloading him and getting him on too many. And I think, you know, Keontae Scott, the addition of Keontae Scott, I've mentioned him several times. This guy's really, really good. So both those guys moving around, I think they're kind of working off each other, and then I think that's raised the level for Nehemiah. I think Simp, his level's raised, and you know, for Simpson, you know, the sky's the limit for him. You know, he's a guy that's got tremendous physical talent, tools, and can really help us. So I think that whole back end is really been pushed by Donovan as well, just to be better and kind of catch up a little bit to the FBI part of it, the football intelligence piece that we need to be at in the back end to get the stuff done we need to get done.
Ron, how valuable has this time been for Tate and Jaleel and even Brandon Council, all those other centers to get those reps? How valuable has it been for them?
Yeah, it's huge. You know, that was something, we split the practices the first 2 days, and that was hard. All right, that was one that, I mean, we started fast, it was hot, and we had a few guys go out. But, you know, they came back the third day, and then we had a break, and the fourth day, and then those guys have been in the mix ever since. And so now it's been a lot more controlled as far as the reps and what we're trying to accomplish. So those guys getting in there and just having these scrimmages, having these practices, the pre-practice stuff, all the things we do at the centers, that's been really valuable to them. And I can see the improvement. They're all getting more comfortable making the calls. They're more comfortable with what's going on around them. They're more comfortable with the quarterbacks, because we had a little bit of center quarterback issues early on. And, you know, the worst thing that can happen is you have quarterback-center exchange issues when you're trying to compete as a quarterback, right? And, you know, it gets to a point, too, where, like, we mess it up. I mean, those guys are out. We lose reps. So you got to get with your centers, and the centers got to understand, like, this is really important that we are able to make this exchange happen like it needs to. But I think Coach Friend's done a great job with those guys, just center-wise, getting them to understand what we're trying to accomplish, how to communicate. That's probably the biggest thing. At center, you got to have some confidence now, because you're going to bark out something, and you might be wrong, but hey, if we're all wrong together, you know, we might have a chance. And we don't want to be, but you got to say things. You got to go out there and lead. And you're not always going to be right, but you got to know what you're doing, and you got to be able to get out there and communicate. And I think we made some mistakes, and we've lessened those mistakes, and now we're making more of the right calls. And I think there's more confidence, and it's helping the O-line overall. It's helping the tight ends. It's helping the quarterback. So all that's been good.
Bryan, we talked to Coach Keesaw yesterday, asked him about charting the quarterbacks. He said it's different than what you guys did last fall compared to what you're doing now. A lot of that's because it's a three-man race. The battle is different. What maybe went into maybe how you're charting these guys during fall, how you're grading them on a daily basis compared to last year, and how do you think it's going so far in terms of helping you determine who that guy's going to be?
Sure. Well, last year was different with Bo. You know, that was a little bit different because I think that was a little bit more solidified early on. And this is more of the way that, you know, I've always kind of charted the guys and have done it for a long time like that. Just it's really everything, right? It's every meeting. You know, that's one of the things too, just at the quarterback position, right? Every meeting. All right, our guys early. They got their notebooks out. Are they ready to go? Just it's this whole just pro approach is what it is. And you can tell who your quarterback is when you walk into a room, I think. That guy's sitting down, he's got his notebook out, he's locked in, he's dialed, he sits in the meeting room and he pays attention, he knows the answers, he's flowing with the coach. He's one of the first guys out there on the field, he's getting warmed up, he's got command of what's going on. So just every single thing, because you think about in that room, you know, there's myself, I played quarterback, Coach Keesaw played quarterback, Mike Hartline played quarterback in there. So you got three guys in that room, you know, that have been around the quarterback position for a while. Then our players, you know, you're trying to help these guys not just, you know, what they're doing physically, but how to play the position and what it takes. So every single thing, every single day, evaluate it, and then it kind of just starts back over again. All right, now here's where you are. What are you going to do today? And we just keep resetting goals. Because when we get out there, I mean, it's not going to be easy for them, right? We hope practice is really hard every single day. I hope it's harder than the game. But when they get on the field there, I mean, things are going to happen. It happened in the scrimmage, right? You think one thing's going to go a certain way, and all of a sudden, bang, in 2 drives, it's not going that way. Well, how do you respond? What are you going to do? And I think all of those guys have done a good job. Heck, today Holden, I mean, Holden hasn't got a ton of reps. Holden comes out there today, and he's firing the ball better than all of them, in my opinion. So we're trying to do these drills, and then all of a sudden, like, Holden just comes out of nowhere, and he's you know, one of the best throwers that I've coached, and he's getting some things figured out fundamentally. So all of a sudden now you're sitting there going, okay, where's this guy been? And he's just young, but now it's, you know, sometimes you have those moments where it's like, okay, I'm ready. And I don't know when that's going to be for a young player, but Holden's starting to come on now, and you know, he's not going to get those same amount of reps, but here's a guy that's building, and so that's going to carry over into the season. And then who knows what happens? You know, if he keeps advancing and growing and developing, then, you know, there's a guy that can spin it, you know, a guy that we thought would be a good player for us. But those guys, every day they walk in the building, they're being evaluated. All eyes are on them. And, you know, that's just how we do it. You know, that might be not how everybody does it. That's just how we do it and what we feel like is important for us, because that's how our quarterbacks are going to be trained. They're going to be trained like pros. And you want them to act like that. So, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that way.
Ryan, can you talk specifically with Tate, as a guy who doesn't have as many reps as some of the other guys on the offensive line? How far have you seen him come along just since the spring?
Yeah, when I first got here, a long ways. You know, I think, one, physically he's changed. That was the biggest thing. I thought when we got here, physically, the biggest difference from where he was to where he is now is he's physically changed, which has changed his mentality as well. Now he can go out there and he can hold his own. Mindset is different. I think he's been really good at being coachable. The center position, it's no fun sometimes. I mean, just at the end of the day, like, you are the O-line, those 5 guys are getting it at all times, right? There's always something, because there's 5 guys. There's 5 guys out there. They're all working together. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. And the thing about the O-line, if you tell one, you're telling them all. That's just how it works. All right, receivers, it could be one guy is getting it. All right, it doesn't matter to the other guys. It all matters to the O-line because they're always working together. They're always together in everything they do. So I think for his standpoint, he's more coachable in a good way. I think he's physically better. I think he's able to handle the pressure out there of playing that position. We moved him to guard as well. You know, we kind of bounce him around if Jaleel comes in there, and we got some other guys moving to guard, so he really knows that center guard position area. And he's just taking it upon himself to show up every day and try to make sure that he does his job so that everybody else around him, quarterback included, can do theirs. And I think that's where the next step's going to take place, is he's just taking ownership in what he's doing.
Got one more in the back row.
Coach, where have you seen growth and development in TJ Finley since the end of last season?
Yeah, maturity. I really do. I think he's, you know, I'll say this, TJ's got a coach's mentality. he sees things out there, and that's just not everybody conceptually picks things up very quickly. You know, it takes a little bit of time, and you know, he's got that mentality, and that's just, you know, some guys have it. Some guy, it takes some time for others. Like, you'll figure it out. But we all know, like, we're all good at something, and sometimes guys are really good at football and just kind of just seeing it. And a couple examples in the scrimmage, right? He sees, you know, we get the play in late. The clock's winding down. It's going to be a timeout situation. Well, he's getting everybody lined up and getting the snap count to what it needs to be so we can get the play off and then executing the play. So it's not a panic. He's just doing it with urgency and gets everybody lined up, and then bang, we convert a 3rd down and 9. So, like, those are things to me that I think he does a really good job of. Physically, all of our, you know, all the quarterbacks, right? You're always talking about accuracy. That's the first thing. You got to be an accurate thrower. Those are areas that they all can work on. Okay, our quarterbacks haven't been hit. There's no live work, right? The first time they're going to get hit is going to be in the first game. So, you know, you mentally have to challenge yourself to stand there and not flinch and know, like, that guy's barreling down. Like, Owen Papo running through untouched is going to hit you right in your chest plate. And you're going to do one of two things. You're going to stand there and deliver, or you're going to get on your back foot and flinch. I mean, that remains to be seen. And I think that's the one thing that, you know, you can tell with the quarterback when you get into a game who's going to stand in there and deliver, because those things are going to happen. Is that ball going to sail and go over somebody's head, or can he drive it right home and hit the receiver and take the hit? And I think all those guys mentally are better. Robbie's throwing the ball much better. You know, he came in here. I mean, that was something that we worked on quite a bit with Robbie, just throwing the ball and getting to a good rhythm. He's doing that now. So I think that's another example of TJ kind of elevating that room, and, you know, from a mental standpoint, and getting the other guys to play at a higher level. So I just think he does a good job. He studies, he prepares, he comes out there, he knows what to do. I mean, little things like the drill screwed up. He's, you know, like flip the cones. Like, he pays attention to stuff like that, like this isn't right. And those are little things that not everybody does. And he's just got, you know, a good way of making sure those things are done properly.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Have a great day.